Illuminati, George Washington responded in a letter to the person saying that I have the favor of the 17th instant before me, and my only motive to trouble you with the receipt of this letter is to explain and correct a mistake which I perceive in a hurry. I am obliged often to write letters I have led you into. It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati, the principles of Jacobinism, had not spread to the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of that fact than I am. The idea that I meant to convey, that I did not believe that the lodges of Freemasonry in this country as societies have endeavored to promulgate the diabolical tenets of the first or the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible to separation, but that individuals of them may have done it, or that the founder or instrument founded, or the instrument employed to found the democratic societies in the United States may have had these objects in mind and actually had the separation of the people from their government in view is too evident to be questioned. What George Washington was saying was that the mere fact that someone had charged that the Illuminati was operating in America, George Washington said, on the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of that fact than I am. And then he proceeded to say that he did not believe that all Freemasons were involved in this plot, but that the founders of the Democratic Society in America, or the Democratic Party, as we call it today, in America, had the object in mind of the Illuminati's projects, and had actually, the Democratic Party, George Washington said, actually had the separation of the people from their government in view. It is too evident to be questioned. That may explain why today that in a democratic country like America, the people make certain demands on the government and the government doesn't respond. The people want this, the government doesn't respond. The people demand that, the government doesn't respond. Because the whole concept of the democratic process in America was purposely to divide the people from their government, so that the people could be out here working, taking care of their lives, feeding their children, and sending their politicians to Washington to look out for them. When they got there, they were already members of certain fraternal organizations, and all government was already taken care of, so that the people have nothing to say about anything. And that's the point we're trying to make, that when you send politicians to Washington, D.C., they might just as well stay home, because the rhyme and reason of government has already been decided by secret societies and fraternal orders that you don't know anything about. In our discussion of the Illuminati, we want to also, when talking about the dollar bill and the symbol on the back of the dollar bill, let me read to you from the congressional report published by the Congress of the United States, a congressional report, which we will be happy to provide you with if you'd like a copy. It talks about steps toward a British Union, a world state, and international strife. International strife is very much concerned with a world state and British Union. As we brought out before, Britain is referred to as God's kingdom, the United Kingdom. International strife, which is happening throughout the world, is part and parcel of preparing the world for God's United Kingdom. And America is playing its part. That, incidentally, as I think I mentioned before, provides the basis for racism in the world today. God's kingdom, of course, coming through Britain and America. America being ruled from the White House. England being God's chosen to sit on Jehovah's throne for Jesus, provides the world with a convenient racist philosophy. And then we wonder in this country why the rest of the world doesn't seem to care for America a lot. There's a lot that we should know concerning the symbols on the dollar bill. Let me go to this congressional report published back in 1940. It says on page 13, "Let me call your attention to the fact that on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, which appears on our dollar bills, you will find the exact symbol of the British Israel World Federation. This symbol is also carried on literature of other organizations promoting a world government and a world religion. At the bottom of the circle surrounding the pyramid, you will find the wording Novus Ordo Seclorum. It was this new order that was advocated by Clinton Roosevelt several hundred years ago, and recently in Philip Drew, and now followed by the executive." We understand that this whole concept of a new world order is a revolutionary idea developed out of occult Freemasonry. I want to go back to the introduction of fire in the minds of men and lay the foundation for something that I think you're going to find very interesting. Again, we want to requote from page 6 in the introduction. It says, "A reoccurrent mythic model for revolutionaries, early romantics, and young Karl Marx, and the Russians of Lenin's time was Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods for the use of mankind. The Promethean faith of revolutionaries resembles in many respects the general modern belief that science would lead men out of darkness into light." It's interesting that in New York City, in Rockefeller Plaza, at the very entrance to Rockefeller Plaza is an enormous statue of Prometheus. How appropriate. And when one understands how the Soviet Communist Party is financed, organized, and directed out of New York, then it will not be any great mystery as to why in front of Rockefeller Plaza we have the god Prometheus. James Billington, in his book Fire in the Minds of Men, explains that that is a symbol for the world revolutionaries. But it goes on to say in the introduction, "But there was also a more pointed and millennial assumption that there was a millennium coming, a new world order, a millennium, a 1,000-year reign, so to speak. A more pointed millennial assumption that on the new day that was dawning, the sun would never set. Early in the French upheaval was born the solar myth of revolution, suggesting that the sun was rising on a new era." This whole idea of the sun rising on a new era, the new dawn, the millennial assumption, we can see this openly being used today by our president in such newspaper clippings as the New World Order and how the world is now being formed into a new world order. We want to talk about that and what that means for you. As a matter of fact, here in the Daily News in our hometown, Bush urges unity in crises. Beneath it, it says, he sees the Gulf as a test of the New World Order. That New World Order is on the bottom of the dollar bill. It's on the bottom of the pyramid that's on the dollar bill. It's an interesting concept, and it's one that you should know about. Because what is going on in the Middle East right now is part and parcel of a Masonic movement. Freemasonry has made arrangements to organize, direct, finance, and control different segments of society in our country and throughout the world. They have realized that in this country, black movements are moving into mainstream America. Therefore, the need arises for black leaders to be able to fall in line, to go along, to get along. And some of the black Freemasons that have been accepted into the order is, for instance, is Jesse Jackson, Andy Young, mayor of Atlanta, Kenneth Gibson,